Hi, all. I wanted to cover a couple of different topics that I'll send to you as an email where we're talking about brainstorming, using Facebook podcasts and blogs to help out just finding out what different topics and the cutting edge is in your field of choice. And then digging into some of the issues that come up when you're actually looking for a topic or a paper, how to navigate a paywall, and there's an app, and then there's also a document delivery that's useful, and then finally keeping track of your citations, and then a couple of brief points about peer-to-peer meetings. So I'll move through those pretty quickly, and there's some links that I'll share with you in the email and announcement that's going to be posted, but it's just that's an overview. So to kick off then, what about this brainstorming thing that I was talking about, and how to do it? I've met with some folks, and as you're putting together your topics, one of the things that that has been a struggle, I think, is looking to see whether we have, what is, coming up with your ideas. So in this science journaling type of thing, one thing I have is talking about these key ideas for brainstorming your ideas, and these are strategies that you can use. So the idea is just, you don't have to have perfect citations. Just try to write whatever you want, share only what you want. This is for your ideas. You're not allowed to cross anything out during the brainstorming phase, but you need to write something. And, even if it seems like it's boring, then you can kind of dig into it. So what does that look like? How do you actually do this kind of work initially before you even start getting into papers? One thing that you can do is do sort of this kind of web-like approach that people typically do. So instead of having this improving your customer's experience here, you could have it be on something about, oh, I'm interested in endocrinology. And then you may say like, oh yeah, I'm also interested in nutrition. And then I'm interested in maybe diabetes. And you don't have to draw the arrows yet. You're just writing the different words down, and then you start to try to create these little webs, and how do these different things connect? And that can help you define a topic that might be interesting. And sometimes these topics actually have really interesting cross connections. So with the conversations that I've had today with people who have come in during the open office hours, is that they've described how maybe there's things like, oh, diabetes and septic shock, or diabetes and the onset of Parkinson's disease. And these other types of things that are really kind of like these interesting cross connections and may link something that's interesting to you. So even though things may seem disparate when you're actually writing down these words and then trying to find connections between them, when you dig into the literature, you might find that that's the case. So let's say that you find something that's interesting, you want to follow it up a little bit further. How do you do that? Well, one thing that you can do is basically go through and look for different types of podcasts or for blogs that are out there and what people have actually written about, or is a cutting edge in the particular topic that you're interested in. So this is an example of Parkinson's disease podcasts. And then if you click on this is one that I just picked out of the and what we find here is that here's a list of different types of things for this particular type of podcast. It's led by this individual here, Dan Keller, and then what we're doing is that we're looking at different topics that are out there. And the nice part about it is that there's show notes that they often go through, and they describe these different things in more detail, who it is that they're interviewing, and really helps to be able to illustrate the cutting edge and what's going on. The nice thing about podcasts and also blogs is that you can often find where the controversies are in the field. What is it that's actually a real limit? How is this really suiting the needs of a patient, or is helping to accelerate the pursuit of discovery, or whatever it is, an aspect that you're looking for in biomedical science? So that's Facebook and Facebook support groups and groups like that are open, or that you can ask to join. Be honest, say that you actually are a student. Don't say that you're suffering from a particular disease. They have some, I know, for Parkinson's, for example, that try to link scientists and also patients to talk about the latest research. So the benefit of that is that you're able to really kind of see what these conversations are like between people who are suffering from it and then people who are actually doing the research on it. So those are really useful types of topics that can be really helpful as you're going through. So, all right, so let's say you start digging into it and you find that you're, narrowed down your topic, and in this case, you're interested and you're trying to dig into a particular type of topic. So LRRK2 is a particular gene in Parkinson's disease that's been important. And also iPSC is a type of stem cell. So after you've kind of narrowed things down and maybe you're curious about following up more on a particular topic that you heard about on a blog or that you've just developed on your own, then what you can do is basically do this kind of search on Google Scholar. You can limit it by time at any and the range that way, and you can actually do a more advanced type of approach in terms of your selection. But the thing that I wanted to focus on here was basically being able to use the different topics to help you get clues into what's actually going on. So if you click on here and then check like, oh, I've got this paper here, what is it that they're interested in? And they have an abstract that helps you to triage the different types of, see, well, is this really interesting or is it not interesting? Can I understand enough of it to get into it? And then what also happens is that you have this, the introduction. The intro and then also the conclusions are really good clues, because what this does is that these give references that you can end up using yourself in terms of helping to pursue and define what it is that your topic is and the context for your particular topic. So if I thought that this was this particular paper was the bee's knees and I really was interested in it, then what I could do is be able to go and actually look and pursue some of these what I thought were the most meaningful types of papers here, or maybe just start going through them and review the different types of abstracts that are out there. So for example, Sanders and Greenemeyer, maybe I'd want to go and look at that. I could see and view and see what this particular abstract is and whether it's something that's useful or not. So that's that helps to be able to pursue and learn more about this particular type of this particular topic. So the other thing that you can do is this paper, if you remember, we found it from Google Scholar. So the citations in the intro and also in the conclusion are really helpful to be able to get some of the context. But you may also be interested in, well, what have people done with this article since then? And what's really handy is that you have cited, who has cited this article. You can click on that, and then you can find who's actually used that article and described it in their research. So that it can take you from something like, let's say you found something in 2006 or something, and now you can take it all the way up to, well, what happened since 2018? Who's actually used this particular type of paper? And maybe that will get me closer to the cutting edge of what it is that we need to actually be able to observe. So that's a way of actually being able to help look forward from where the paper is and seeing what people have done from there. So great. We've looked at how we can use Google Scholar to help us be able to sort through these different types of topics. The next thing that we want to do is, like, let's say that we find a paper that we're really interested in and we want to be able to, look at it more. But, we want to actually see it. And so, we click on this and click on the PDF. And sometimes with these PDFs, they ask you they give you a paywall. And how do you get around that paywall? Well, it's kind of annoying. And so the way that you can do it, there's two strategies that can help. In this case, with this particular journal, what you can do is that you can ask for it by basically the title and the author and these types of things. You can ask the university to find it for you. So I've provided a link, but you can also see under university libraries, if you go under here, and then click on from their homepage to services, and then scroll down to where they have document delivery. The document delivery is actually really useful for being able to log in and then be able to actually see and request these different types of resources. Here, what you can do is request an article or a book or a chapter, and then what you can do is that you can type in all of that information that you want here, and then they'll turn it around and they'll give it to you. So usually the turnaround time is actually pretty fast for a lot of these different topics, which is pretty remarkable. You can get it in sometimes in a day. Sometimes it takes longer, so you don't want to count on it. But here are some, for example, that I pulled out from that they've given to me and that they supplied for me. So this document delivery is a useful tool for being able to follow up on different types of papers that you're interested in. The other thing that's actually kind of cool is what's called Un-paywall. This is an app that you can download for free and is legit and used and trusted by top institutions. This is something that's a plugin, and I actually have it on mine here. It allows you to be able to see whether something is actually available for free. And what you actually have then is, if you see off to this corner here, I have a little lock here. that indicates that this paper is not available free elsewhere. But Unpaywall works to be able to help search the web to see whether there are sources that are actually provide this particular journal for free, even though you're being requested to generate a paywall here. So for example, let's go back to the paper that we had. Here, okay. So in this case, let's go, I think, maybe it was this one. Okay. I lied. There's another one. That's perfect. It goes here. Okay, so here's an example of one where we have from Science Translational Medicine. We go and we click on it, and then it's actually saying, oh, we've got to like pay for the PDF. But what's interesting is that the paywall here, this unpaid wall, indicates that it's actually available, and so we can actually click on that and then be able to define and find this particular type of paper. So it's a really handy tool to be able to navigate it. So, all right, we've talked about hitting the paywall, how to navigate around the paywall, how to use these different tools to be able to understand a little bit more about what's happening. What about your references and keeping track of these citations that you have? What you can use is Zotero. It's a really useful type of approach. You can download it for free. It gives you a certain amount of space. If you want to expand that space, then you have to pay for it. But it allows you to be able to create a library in which you can actually compile all the papers that you're interested in. So for example, here, I have it built in as a plugin. I can click on this and then download it into my library, and so it'll automatically do that. Now here, because I have the Unpaid Wall, or as a paywall, it didn't download the PDF, but I could just go to that PDF that I found through Unpaid Wall and then save that into my Zotero. In theory. I may have to download it and then manually take it over there. But then, but the trick of it basically is that you're able to actually use this as a way of keeping your references together, and then you can also link it to Microsoft Word and then use that to help create your citations for your paper. Okay, so now we've talked about that. And keeping track of your citations and some of the resources and tools you have for it. Finally, what I want to do is I want to get into talking about your the peer-to-peer meetings. So one thing that's come up in questions that have come up is, well, how do these peer-to-peer meetings work? And I told you a little bit about that, but I think one thing I wanted to emphasize was that as you're looking at your, if you're looking at this, so you might look and say like, okay, I know here's my name, I'm Alyssa, and I'm looking between 8:30 and 8:40. That's when I need to show up. Well, how does that map onto here? Okay, well, Adam Sack is the first name here, so the people between Adam Sack and DeVries will need to show up that day at their assigned time. So she'll come in at 8:30, and we'll meet, and we'll go through what she's actually got for her project proposal. She would have already shared it to me by Google Docs, as I described in the other video, and so we should be ready to rock. We'll go through it. It's about 5 minutes that I have for each person because it's a peer-to-peer. There's 2 people there. So you can use that time to basically talk with your neighbors or talk with your peer group to figure out what's going on. I need you there during that 10-minute period and to show about 2 to 3 minutes before and afterwards, just in case there's a little bit of wiggle time there. But we have to make sure it's really tight and that we're moving through everybody there. Because it's only 5 minutes, that's not a lot of time to really go through your proposal in depth. So I'm going to need you to be able to have that document ready, and then your questions that you have about it and concerns specifically identified so that I can be able to help. And so what this means is that you just be like, hey, can you look it over? Isn't really helpful. I can look it over and I might be able to say like, oh yeah, it looks like the structure is pretty good, Did you get to talking about what your particular topic was? Yes, you did. Okay, great. Um, but you might be like, is this topic too broad? Can you help me specify it? I found 100 citations on this, and I need to figure out another way to kind of dig into this a little bit more. I was thinking about this, or I was thinking about that. So try to narrow down what you have for that peer-to-peer as much as possible, so that we can get the most out of that touchstone. What we might find is like, you know what, we go through it and we're just that 5 minutes isn't quite enough for us to really get everything we need out of it, and maybe there's more questions that you have, and that's what we have the open office hours to do for us during the class times that we have assigned, and then also we have my regular office hours, which you can come by as well. So all of that's outlined here in terms of the open office hours. I talked about that before. The other thing just to note is that on the 6th, this is a change from what we had when I wrote it down on the board earlier, and I think the only change I've made is that we have that on Thursday, next Thursday, this is open office hours here, so you can stop by and visit me over at KHS 2269. All right, that wraps it up. Thank you. Sorry that took so long, but we had a lot to cover.